So you met Vicky at uni. She had a long battle with breast cancer. And
yes.
You finally lost it. You lived the last part of her life quite adventurous. You know,
Absolutely.
right? Okay, let's live life to the full.
Yes. The last time she left hospital, we knew from the information we were getting that things were very uncertain. We didn't know how long she had left, and it was very much a part of the way that we wanted to spend that time to go out there and do stuff. We travelled extensively. We went to America twice. We moved house. We changed the whole balance of our lives in terms of the work aspect. We made new friends. Vicky became involved with the PTA at Romy's school. And it was on one of those big trips, a trip to Australia, that she started to become unwell again. And that persisted, and we felt that we would have to go back and have further scans. We weren't sure what it was, but we knew that. It's just that on the journey back from Australia to Hong Kong, she became very, very ill very quickly. She collapsed on the plane.
Oh,
so she went from feeling slightly sick, getting on the plane, to having to be taken off in a wheelchair in Hong Kong. And within a couple of hours, she was in intensive care, and she never regained consciousness.
And for Romy, who was very young at the time, how did you explain her illness at the time and the frequent hospital visits? Well,
we felt, and my sister-in-law was marvellous and came out and joined us very quickly when we were there. We both felt it was important to keep Romy informed in terms of saying that her mum was very ill, because Romy was there, she was involved, she saw, you know, even at that young age, I think children pick up on things very, very well. So we felt it important to keep her across what was happening. And then there came a point when we were told that Vicky was slipping away, when we made the decision to speak to Romy and tell her that, which was incredibly hard, as you can imagine.
Well, then, of course, sadly, desperately sadly, you have to tell Romy that Mum has died. And I can't imagine the pain of having to tell your young daughter something so horrible.
No.
And it was... You say that for a while she changed a little bit, as is expected. She went into her shell and was struggling to deal with it. And we said in the introduction there, which is it's an extraordinary story, and this is all in the book, is the way she came up with her coping mechanism.
Absolutely. I mean, Romy's natural character was to be reserved, to be a little bit introverted anyway. So I suppose I was doubly concerned that, as her dad, I was saying and doing the right things in drawing her out and giving her access to all those sorts of emotions. So it was an anxious time for me, and it happened that about 9 months after Vicky died, we had these cardboard boxes that were knocking about in the hallway, and Romy just expressed the desire to make mummy. I think we were deciding what to do with the boxes, and we were very rapidly into this art project where we were putting one large box on a chair and then a smaller box on top, and suddenly we had a head and a torso, and I was adding in those cardboard tubes that you get as arms and legs, and this figure literally emerged.
Cardboard mummy.
Cardboard mummy. And cardboard mummy came everywhere. I mean, to begin with, initially around the house.
Yes.
So it had to place, the table was laid, would come up to bed at night. And actually was a lovely way of making, you'd start talking about cardboard mummy, and then obviously you then open the conversation of talking about mummy.
Absolutely. It was a way of accessing all that, and very much part of our lives, as you say. And then, I mean, even from the start, I'd have to admit, I had a little anxiety. I was very, very happy that Romy was expressing something, and that was all good. But I suppose part of me also thought, are we going down the right avenue with this?
Yes.
And I spoke to a child psychologist quite early on, and he said, no, you know, children do this kind of stuff. Kind of go with it and see where it takes her.
Well, was working perfectly. It was settling her. You had this focus of Vicky in Cardboard Mummy, but then of course comes the day when there's talk of Cardboard Mummy coming out with you, and you end up with it in the car, and you've got people looking in through the window, and then there's a show and tell at school. Now, 6- and 7-year-olds can be quite brutal, and so your cardboard mummy goes into school and you're standing there waiting at the gates at the end of the day wondering how this went.
Absolutely.
And it had a profound effect.
Absolutely. And she had a very sensitive teacher. It couldn't have been a better setting, and yet I was still, as you say, extremely anxious about it. But the teacher came out and I thought, oh, how has it gone? You know, we're suddenly into the rough and tumble of that environment. But as you say, the teacher said that Cardboard Mummy was set up in front of the class and had enabled Romy to speak about her mum and her illness and what had happened, and all those things that I had feared were really buried deep down in a place that she couldn't access.
So eventually the time comes that Romy, her head is adapting to it, becoming a little bit more... You become used to it, but life is working, and the Cardboard Mummy is gradually seen less and less and less and less, and is now safely in the attic.
In the attic, yes. Because I think, and again, looking back, that was very much a phase, and it's going to be 10 years in this April since Vicky died. And as I look back now, there are various phases that you look back on that you've been through, and there was a Cardboard Mummy phase.
Well, this is just one of the stories, actually, that's in this book, The Owl at the Window, a memoir of loss and hope. And it's lovely to meet you, and send her our love as well, will you, please?
Will do.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much indeed.